Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, happily ever after. Let's watch.
I would hope that Ed would love me no matter what. I've loved him at his heaviest and his smallest since I've been with him. Never thought I'd feel so insecure about myself the way that I do now.
Like when Ed
and that's another barometer, another thing to look, another litmus test is when I'm around my partner, how good do I feel about myself? And again, if you have a long history of low self-esteem, it might not feel abnormal. And if you have a long history of low self-esteem, your partner might actually be very good for you, but you just have chronic low self-esteem. But when I hear that, and she has reasons to believe that he sees her as lesser or not good or unattractive or something, and she has chronic low self-esteem problems, it is worrisome to me. I worry for her.
When I broke up, I got really thin again.
He wants you to be that way? Does he understand that that's not a healthy, mental space for you to be?
I don't think he's one to talk.
Yeah, I know. Well, you're stunning and beautiful. You don't need to lose a pound. You should tell him that. Well, I'd be pissed.
I'm glad Liz has this friend. The way she's talking is in a concise way, saying things that I would say as well. Just like, you don't have to lose weight. There's nothing wrong with you. Like, that needs to stop. If you want to lose weight, go for it. If you want to gain weight, let's go, but there's nothing wrong with you.
If my boyfriend told me to go to the gym, and there's a message behind that, if you don't like the way that she looks, that's your problem.
But yeah, the gym is the only time where there's no questions asked. I can be gone for 3 hours and...
Interesting. So she's tying those things together, that if she's doing anything else, then there's questions asked, I guess controlling, which I think derives from his abandonment trauma, and thus he will get jealous and terrified that she's going to leave him and will keep tabs on him. I think Jasmine keeping tabs on Gino when he's going to the store to pick up food, that kind of thing. It's probably that. I don't know. It doesn't make it okay, of course, but it does provide an explanation. And when she goes to the gym, though, he doesn't ask questions because it's in line with some issue of his that he needs her to be a certain way in order for him to feel okay. But great that the friend is like, look, if he has a problem with that, that doesn't say anything about you. It says something about him. And I can't tell you how many times I've said something along those lines to my clients. I'm just like, I hear you that your partner or your boss or this friend of yours or whatever is saying this to you. Your mom is saying this to you. But that has nothing to do with you. That is everything to do with them. They are the problem. They are the one exhibiting that they have an issue. You are not the one with the issue. They're the one with the issue. Do not internalize that. If someone, it's like you're on the road and, you're on the highway and you're far in front of the car that you're getting in front of. You signal and you get over. And then this car in the back feels affronted somehow, gets up alongside of you and flips you off and honks their horn and starts screaming at you. That has nothing to do with your behavior. You were safe and you followed the rules. You looked in your blind spot. You gave them plenty of room and you got in front of them. And that's normal. People change lanes. I say this because sometimes, I swear to God, some people, they just don't understand that changing lanes is an inherent part of being on a highway. It's a major function of getting to your location and also to having traffic move. And some people, it's just like, I'll be signaling and there's enough room and they'll speed up so I can't get over. It's like, and there's zero reason for that. It's just like, I'm not cutting in line. I'm already ahead of you. I'll just be ahead of you. And why it's like, no one's getting in front of me. And it's like, come on, people. And then if you do give people enough space, they're like upset that you got in front. It's just like, this is what we do. That's on them. They have the problem. They're upside. They're flipping you off. Don't internalize. It's like, well, I got over that. Was normal. Like, I'm sorry that you have a problem and that you're upset at me, but not on me. So the friend is saying that's a really good message that she's giving.
I'm good.
That's the only thing he'll let you do without being like, where are you? Come home now. He's okay?
Not checking in, pretty much. But anything else, trying to have girl time is very well, who are you with?
Yeah. So it's subtle control, or she's misinterpreting it. But I'm gonna take a guess and say that she's accurate in her vibe, picking up from him he's not saying directly that he doesn't want her to hang out with her friends, but he's exhibiting behaviors that is alluding to that notion. Ed knows enough not to be overtly controlling. It's also, I would guess, based on that phone call, I think we could learn a lot from that phone call. I reacted to it, by the way. It should be somewhere on my channel. I think that shows a side of him that we don't see on this TV show that is extremely insecure and just paranoid about being abandoned. And so I think what's happening for him is, say, she's going out with friends. He instantly goes to a place of, she's going to cheat on me. I think he has a massive schema around, Liz is going to cheat on me, Liz is going to cheat on me. And then that lends itself to another angle to looking back with Rose of, he might have thought, well, she's so disadvantaged that she'll never cheat on me, that kind of a thing. And so I can feel better about my chances, given that situation. But I'll also point out that the friend had a face, an expression that was, I think, saying, that sounds sketchy. He's not being directly controlling, but it sounds like he's sending some kind of a message. And so the solution to this, often proposed on shows like this, is you just got to assert yourself. And certainly that's within your rights. But if you really want to work on the relationship, the best thing you can do is to help Ed understand that he has a distortion based on his past around assuming cheating is going to happen when there's no indication that's going to happen. Because if he can work on that, then he won't do that anymore. He won't have an urge. Because if she starts to draw boundaries and he has no idea why he's insecure and why he's controlling, then he might interpret that as an indication that she's cheating. She's saying, look, I'm going to go out with my friends this weekend and you can't say anything and I don't want to hear any of your shit. He could literally turn that into a story of, oh, she's already cheating on me and she's about to break up with me. Now, that's not on Liz, but if you're really trying to help a relationship work out, that should be part of the approach of just like, Sonny, we got an issue here. I get this vibe that you're anxious when I do other things. I get a lot of texts from you, and it's fine. You can text me, but it just seems like you're anxious, like you're scared of something. And do you want to tell me? Are you worried I'm going to cheat on you or something? Like that one time when I drove that guy home after work, there was nothing happening there, but you seemed very convinced, and it seems like a pretty big elephant in the room that we got to talk about. I don't want you to feel that way. And frankly, when you feel that way, it impacts me because you give me this vibe like you don't want me to hang out with my friends or you don't want me to do things without you. So, that's another approach.
It's just like
he shouldn't say yes you can. He shouldn't have to give you permission to go have girl time. It sounds really controlling to me. How he tries to tell her what she can and can't do, what he's comfortable with. That's not fair. And I worry about them because if she's not able to be herself and he tries to restrict or control her, you can build up a lot of resentment in a relationship.
Yeah, she's very smart. So not only just like, well, that's not okay and that's unfair to Liz, but also Ed's not doing himself any favors because the more he does that, the more upset Liz will be, the more resentful she'll be, and thus, at the very least, not very kind to Ed, and worse, will break up with him. So his efforts of trying to retain her will backfire on him, which is absolutely true, and that she can see that with very little information is, really smart.
I love him, but I definitely still see like he just projects a lot of things.
His insecurities onto you.
People use the word projection in a way that is fine, but it's not the strict psychoanalytic original definition. They will often be using projection as a displacement or a distortion. So I think what she means in my lingo, which of course she doesn't have to adopt, but that Ed is distorting, that he's seeing, indications of cheating or abandonment or something where it really does not exist.
Sex.
Yeah, that does that. Well, that's not a fair burden for you to carry either. And that's probably a lot of like why you guys fought like during the photo shoot.
Yeah.
And the best solution for the two of them is couple therapy. we got some indication that maybe he stopped therapy after 6 months or something, which is worrisome to me. He got a little bit of therapy, which is great, but I think he probably needs 10 to 15 years. I think Liz probably also does need that. I'm not saying I think the average person probably needs about 10 years of therapy. So I would hope that that would continue, but at the very least, a couple therapy could really help with this. In one session, you could cover so much ground just on this issue alone, and without that guidance, it could cause a lot of problems and a lot of pain for the two of them.
I think Ed is scared to be loved. I think he's scared to get hurt, and he's insecure about that.
Along the lines of what I was saying earlier, that instead of seeing him as a controlling jerk face, which is one way of looking at it, it is all that controlling jerk facedness derives from massive insecurity and massive worries about being abandoned, assumptions about being abandoned. And the more and more I remember having this hypothesis early. It'd be interesting to kind of watch my reaction to Ed or any of these individuals like over time and see like how my conceptualization emerges. It'd be funny if someone did like a class project, maybe a media project, or I don't know, something, maybe even a dissertation where you're actually studying YouTubers that have evolving ideas or something. Anyway, then you just sort of track what would happen. Now, I would worry that somehow if someone did that, they would find that I forgot too many things or that I changed things a lot and felt like I didn't change. Anyway, just interesting to think. Because, I've been watching Ed for 2.5 years, and only every once in a while is he on the show. And it's amidst a lot of other people. Sometimes and I will do this sometimes. Sometimes I'll even take notes on individuals because that's what I do clinically is I will keep notes to remind myself of certain details and certain conceptualizations that I have. I do that with all my clients. But whenever I've started to do that, it becomes really laborious because there's so many things that I have to do when I'm, and if I only did like one cast member a month or something, I guess it would justify it. But, I'm doing a lot. So I found that it pretty much like doubled the amount of time it took for me to do it. Because, I'd watch a scene and then I'd say a bunch of stuff and then I'd have to type it up in my notes. And then it just didn't seem worth it. But I kind of wish that I had the ability to do that. Some of you will actually comment below and remind me of just like, well, remember this thing. And so that helps, by the way, if you feel like I'm forgetting something. So because I do want to remember.
And when Ed has insecurities, there are some control issues that can come up that can make me question if I can see a future with him.
That breaks my heart. You should not feel like that.
Yeah, I'm glad she can be differentiated enough to see Ed through compassionate, I think, accurate eyes, through a lens that's accurate and compassionate. That's one of the things that I will try to teach my trainees is that we have this, I don't know if it's just a universal reaction to situations like this or we're taught it, but a very common way of seeing situations like this is, he's controlling, he's choosing to be controlling because he likes to control, he's a jerk face and he needs to stop it. And the analysis just kind of ends there. Instead of seeing, because people will say like, how do you have compassion for so many people? Some of you will even ask me that. Be like, how do you manage to have compassion? Even for someone like Angela, although my compassion for her has been really challenged lately, but I still do have compassion. I've been challenged with much worse situations clinically. Because imagine an Angela level of personality in my office yelling at someone, even kids, right in front of me for an hour a week for months. Like it's hard to hold on to your objectivity and compassion. And it's your job to stop it. And the other family members are looking at you like, will you do something? And you're not able to do anything. It can result in some very judgmental ideas as a therapist. You're just like, anyway, so people ask me, how do you manage to have compassion? And what I'll say is that it's not a matter of strong-arming my compassion. It's a matter of figuring out how to see people accurately, not in a way that will necessarily provoke compassion, but actually accurately. And when I do find what I consider to be an accurate conceptualization of someone, compassion just naturally follows because you understand where it's going. So with Ed, for example, the surface level, he's a jerk face, he's controlling, he's abusive. Underneath that is what Liz is actually identifying, is that he's massively insecure based on his experience, right? He has low self-worth. Okay, so when we can see that, even though there's really no indication of that, but all arrows are pointing, it's sort of like the center of our galaxy. We can't see the black hole at the center of our galaxy, but you can see all these stars that are orbiting around it at very high speeds. And so you say, well, we can't see the black hole, but we can infer that it's there. So a lot of things are orbiting around insecurity for him. So we just have to figure it's probably there, right? And so when you see someone like that and you really internalize it and you really absorb it and you really focus on it, then it provokes compassion. Be like, oh, it must really suck to be him because that's a lot of insecurity. That's a lot of time that he spends throughout the day trying to make himself feel more secure. All that controlling behavior, all that stuff that he does, all that posturing that he does, and that bossiness that he does is all just this massive effort to make up for this massive insecurity. It must be really hard to be him. And the more I talk about it out loud, I would imagine that not a minute goes by that he's not suffering in some way along those lines. So then you have compassion. Now, what some people will say is, well, so does that mean that if I see my partner that way, if I do have compassion, they're abusing me, but I can see them compassionately, does that mean that I have to help them? And I say, no. If you have someone in your life that is being harmful to you and you have adopted a compassionate, so for Liz, if I were talking to her, it'd be like, it's really great that you can see him through a compassionate lens because that's probably an accurate way of looking at it. However, that does not mean that somehow you have to take care of him, that you have to endure it. By no means is that true. For me, for example, when someone is being harmful to me and it's not hard for me to see what I believe to be an accurate picture, which is that it's coming from some pain inside of them, it's not hard for me to see that, but that doesn't change things for me. I will try to deal with it and I'll try to change it. I'll try to stop the abuse happening. But if that doesn't happen, then I cut ties. I back away. I figure out, I go on a campaign to separate myself from that person. And I don't feel guilty at all about it. I feel lost. I feel bummed out, but I don't feel ashamed. I don't feel guilty. I'm like, that person has issues. I am not their therapist. And they are abusing me. And I did X, Y, and Z to try to change that. It didn't work. They're on their path. I'm on mine. Never mind, going on. I only have one chance to live on this planet. I'm not going to waste it being close to that harm and that toxicity. I'm done with it. So for Liz, she could have compassion and care and also conclude, I've done a lot of things to try to help him to recover, and he has not taken me up on that. He's not going to therapy, or he's not really believing me, or doesn't seem to be putting effort into it, or I don't have time for this. Maybe in 10 years, if I went on a campaign, I could help him to recover, but I don't have time for this. I have better things to do with my life. I'm moving on. That would be totally justified.
Who went poo-poo on the pad? You're learning. During the photo shoot, Liz said that I'm trying to show off, and to me, that is total BS. That's just her being a baby sissy wah-wah. But at the same time, I didn't react very well to it.
Yikes. So I don't know if y'all think this, but I might be and have been one of the only people that watches this show or comments on the show who has, or one of the only who has a sympathetic view of Ed, and always have. But the things that we're learning more as time has gone on in just this season have been straining that for me. What he just said, the baby sissy wah-wah, like Liz wasn't saying that about him, I'll say. You know what I mean? So there's so many ways to phrase that. Liz is very careful. She'll say like, well, he's insecure and then he gets bossy. She seems to at least exhibit compassion for him as she conceptualizes him, as she talks about him. He, on the other hand, this is an interview that happens later. He's and this is a pattern of his, right? It's a way of belittling other people, which is upsetting.
And I think what I did was I embarrassed her in front of her friend. So
so his narrative is that she's insecure, and so, she's immature, and so I embarrassed her in front of her little friend, and so she was a baby sissy wah-wah, and da-da-da. Now, he could have a problem with that conceptualization that she had, which is that he was just trying to show off. Like, that is potentially true, but also not a very kind way of putting it, right? Especially if that's all that you said. Now, we know that that's not how she sees it, because given some time, she says much different things about why he was being that way. So, he can be upset about that, but the way he phrases it is just, doesn't make me comfortable.
have to be more sensitive to make this work with Liz.
Yeah, sorry, I keep interrupting, but it's that patriarchal looking down. I gotta coddle her because she's this immature little child. And yeah, just upsetting. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself, really, because you deserve it. You really do.